Hey everybody, welcome to the 440 Guitar Podcast. I am your host Jerrell Powell. Thank you so much for tuning up. You can catch the podcast on the streaming app of your choice. So if you have Spotify, please be sure to click that follow button. Or if you use Apple Podcast or Google Podcast, please be sure to click subscribe on those so you can get updated on the episodes for when they release. You can also follow the podcast on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just go to 440guitarpodcast.com, our website. You'll be able to find all of our handles there for the social media. And then also, if you wanted to buy a t-shirt or coffee mug, you're more than welcome to do that as well. You can go to 440guitarpodcast.com, click on Buy 440 merchandise, and you can see some cool stuff there that you can purchase if you'd like. So feel free to do that if you'd like to do so. Today, I'm very excited as we have a fantastic guitar player from Los Angeles, California. He is the lead guitarist for the band Chicano Batman, fantastic band, which they have released their current album this year titled Invisible People. Without further ado, Carlos Arévalo. How are you, Carlos?
Hi, I'm good, Jerrell. Thanks for having me on the show.
Of course, man. Of course, it's been definitely appreciate you coming on. Uh, Man, it's crazy. I feel like the year's gone by really fast with all the insane things that have been happening this year. How have you been doing during all of this, during the quarantine? I know we were talking about how you were kind of working on some music, but how have you been through, for this year thus far?
I've been doing good. I'm newlywed. Actually, it's going to be my 1 year anniversary in a few days, and
Oh, wow. Congrats.
I was reading like in the news how this is really like testing like couples, testing like the strength of the relationship, being in quarantine together, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to say I have a great partner. So she and I are. It's been easy sailing for us. We stay home and just try to be healthy. We really take the public health aspect of this whole situation seriously. And man, I haven't really been out socializing at all, except for visiting other pockets of my family that are taking this seriously and
Yeah.
that I can trust are being smart and wearing masks outside. So
Yeah.
it's been good. And then in between that, just trying to get exercise when I can. I try to run and do some kind of strength training multiple times a week, and that and just working on music has pretty much been my routine every week. So I guess the big difference is obviously we're not on the road, and
Right.
that's Chicano Batman's. That's a big part of our identity is us as performers and
Mm.
live musicians. So
Hmm.
it took a little bit of a transition to get used to that, but I just been working on music nonstop now. So
Nice.
been okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I like what you said as far as, and congratulations again, by the way, a 1 year anniversary, obviously a big
Thank you.
deal. Yeah, I just passed my 3 year anniversary with my wife, and uh, yeah, but definitely what you said as far as this is definitely a trial of all trials. Can you withstand your partner? Yeah, definitely. Definitely an interesting time in regarding to that. But yeah, I'd definitely be in the same boat as far as I gotta have a partner where we can figure things out, work things out, so we're not at each other's throats. So that's good. So
Yeah,
excellent.
it's real out there. I know relationships that have been going strong for years are no longer with some people I know, and
Mm,
it's it's crazy. It's just you get put in this situation where not only are you being tested in terms of your relationship, but just like mental toughness and
right.
I just like psychologically. It's just this whole thing is just taking a toll on people, and I can understand how that can create some difficult scenarios for people living together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A trial of all sorts.
Yeah.
So on the 440 Guitar Podcast, we're really big on origin stories, how people got to where they are today. So without further ado, for you, just jumping right into it, tell me about your earliest memories of music.
So my earliest memories are the earliest memory I have is I remember I've told this story a few times, so I just want to apologize for anyone that might be listening that have heard this. But I I saw the movie La Bamba when I was a little kid, and
Nice.
I was probably a first grade or something, and I just remember being awe-inspired by what I saw on the screen, and um, it probably had some relevance in the fact of that he was a Latino,
Mm.
and that's something I never saw like on a movie before.
Mm.
And then here he was playing amazing guitar, rock guitar, and singing, and I just remember seeing that and just being floored and wanting to do that. And I didn't know if it was just me being like a child, like, oh, I want to do that because it looks cool. You know, children are like that. Oh, that looks
Yeah.
cool. I want to go kick the soccer ball. I want to go shoot the basketball. I want to go play the rock guitar. But in hindsight, I really think it was just inherently I wanted to play music, and that was the first sign.
Mm.
So that was that, and also I grew up in the like I was in grade school, elementary school, and middle school in the '90s. So it was like the MTV generation when MTV was still playing music that was very popular, but also could be like very art artistic. You know,
Yeah.
there was this time where critically acclaimed music could also be huge popular music.
Mm.
And so I remember seeing like in '92, uh, Black Hole Sun. You know, I remember seeing Smells Like Teen Spirit. I
Mm.
remember seeing Under the Bridge, and also hip hop. Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, West Coast, G Funk.
Yeah.
I just remember loving all of that music, and just I could not get enough of it. I used to watch it all day,
Mm.
and so that was really forming my identity, I think, musically.
Yeah.
And so I think I wanted to play an instrument um, in fifth grade. I was in fifth grade. I grew up in Rialto, California, which is about
Mm.
60 miles east of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But my family, my mom's from Los Angeles. My dad's from El Salvador. He migrated here in the 70s. And so we have roots in LA. All my family was living in LA when I was growing up in the Inland Empire.
Mm.
And anyways, I had a friend in fifth grade, and I remember he introduced me to Weezer. And this is when the
Mm.
Blue album had just come out. Like their first
Okay.
single was Holly. And I just remember thinking it was so cool what I was hearing and seeing. The music video was directed by Spike Jones. Once again, I'm talking about that MTV era where you just had amazing like directors. There was a budget for music videos, so the
Right.
this whole I created an identity of like music and then visuals going hand in hand.
Mm.
Um, and so I just remember loving that record. And my friend, his name was Brian Jones, like the guitarist of Rolling Stones, and he had an older brother that was feeding him this music like in high school. I didn't have
Mm.
an older sibling, so this was like my first time like being exposed to new sounds that I didn't find on my own, which was very hard because obviously this is pre-internet
Mm.
and or just as the internet was starting. So I remember he would show me stuff. He showed me Green Day's Dookie. Those records had just come out, and I remember liking it a lot. And
Mm.
I wanted to play guitar so badly. And I remember asking my dad, "Can I get a guitar?" And money was tight in my house at the time. You know, we were middle class, lower middle class, and I remember he was just like, I don't know if we can afford buying one of those, especially because you tried playing clarinet and like you gave up. In fourth grade, I played clarinet in like the school band, and
Mm.
it just didn't work out for logistical reasons.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, the story is I liked it and I was good at it and I wanted to do it, but
Mm.
the elementary school I went to, they would have it wasn't you went to school for 9 months and then had summers off. It was year round. So you could
Mm.
go for 3 months and then you'd have a month off, and then you go
Oh
another
wow.
3 months and then you have a month off, and then you go another so forth.
Wow.
So I did 3 months of playing clarinet, but then when it was time for the month off, they expect you to show up to the the classes
Mm.
that are happening twice a week at school. My parents are at work when I'm off school. I'm getting taken care of by my grandma, and she doesn't drive, so I couldn't continue my lessons and my practice. So when I got back to school after that month off, everybody was like a whole section ahead of me,
Oh
and
no.
they expect you to catch up. And because of that, I fell off, and I was just like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm
Yeah.
so behind, and I was upset. But anyways, that's the story of what my dad was referencing.
Mm. Yeah,
But
that's not even your fault though. It's like you stopped playing. It's not because I decided not to play.
but so yeah, so I just wanted to keep playing music, and
Mm,
I ended up going to really getting into hip hop in middle school because that's
mm,
what was really popular. And I went to a school that was primarily Latino and black.
mm,
So I got like a kind of a lot of crap for liking rock music. People would
mm.
give me like a hard time, like stereotype,
Yeah,
and be like, "What are you listening to?" That's, you know, they would say that's white boy music or something like that. And I just I guess I got peer pressure, not peer pressure, but I wanted to fit in.
sure.
I got into hip hop outwardly,
Yeah.
rock behind the scenes, but I wasn't flying that flag at school. But
Mm.
but even in hip hop, I was able to. I got into like the Roots, and we're talking about like '98 Roots. We're
Oh,
talking
okay.
about Outcasts, AT Aliens had just come out.
Such great
Um,
music.
all this stuff was super underground at the time. It wasn't.
Yeah.
They didn't have their top 40 hit yet. Either of
Right.
the groups.
Bombs over Baghdad and all that.
2 albums before that. And so,
Yeah.
and I got into like cool hip hop that was unique. I always liked stuff that was just kind of unique and off the beaten path of what is quote unquote popular. And that's what I got into. I got into hip hop really hard. This is also, we're talking about Notorious B.I.G. was blowing up. Life After Death had just come out. He had just passed away.
Mm.
Tupac had just passed away. And I forgot what record. I think Machiavelli was the one that just come out. So all this music was coming out that was amazing. And
Mm.
I wanted to do something with music. This has always been my life. And
Yeah.
I had saved up money for like a year. And now we're talking about I'm in high school. I'm a ninth grader.
Mm.
And I wanted to be a DJ because I just got into hip hop 100%.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do some kind of production. And I know that producers start with DJing first, or that's what I thought in my brain at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Guitar Center, was getting ready to buy my $200 turn. They would have like a beginner Gemini turntable setup, and they weren't even good turntables. They were the belt drive.
Yeah.
So you get like a packet, you get a mixer. I wanted to get one, so I saved up, went to Guitar Center with my dad, and I went to go buy it, and it was like $100 more than what it had been advertised or what I thought it was,
Oh.
and so I couldn't afford it. But they had a guitar starter pack Squire with a little amp for like 250,
Mm.
and I had always wanted to play guitar also, and I thought, well, maybe I can play guitar then. I want to come home with some kind of musical instrument so I can make music.
Yeah.
And so my dad popped in the $50, helped me out, and I went home with a guitar, and
Wow.
that was it. I was 15. I just turned 15. It was on my 15th birthday, and I bought like a book, and I just tried my best to like learn guitar by myself. I didn't even use like a pick at first. I just used my thumb because I didn't know any better.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, it took a long time because, like I said, I didn't have any older siblings, and I didn't have any friends that played music.
Mm.
So I really had to teach everything myself, like in a vacuum. And so, needless to say, things were a little slow going.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Wow, that's great. That's a great story. I appreciate you sharing that. What songs or did you listen to that you kind of learned by ear when you were going through that process?
So this is '99. So Chili Peppers had just put out Californication,
Mm.
and that was a monster record.
Oh
And
yeah.
I was drawn to the guitar playing because at the time everything was Corn, Limp Bizkit, rap
Mm.
metal was like the thing.
Right.
And I remember Rob Zombie, and I liked that music, but I don't know. I was more drawn to like the Chili Peppers because they were like I liked how John Frusciante played clean, and I just
Yeah.
liked his style of guitar playing. And I remember he played very simplistic for that record,
Mm.
and I read because he was coming off like injuries from his heroin addiction where he didn't have like strength in
Mm.
his wrists, so he literally had to play like more simple and less busy. But I
Wow.
thought it was so musical and so so beautiful, really. And I know
Yeah.
I know Chili Peppers now, like a lot of people kind of kind of talk crap on them and make
Mm.
fun of them, and but just being in context at the time, this was some
Yeah.
fresh new stuff in 1999, and
Yeah.
I took notice, and I remember just trying to learn like anything I could off that album because I didn't need a distortion pedal, you know, I
Mm.
didn't need a down tuned guitar to do it. I just needed a standard pitch tuned guitar, and that's all I had. So I was able to make some of the sounds on that record, you know,
Wow.
and that felt like an amazing accomplishment at the time for someone that had just started out.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, yeah. That's funny you mentioned Frusciante. I know he released a new album this weekend. But yeah, he's one of my favorite guitar players. By the way, is probably my favorite RCP album, and just like the stuff he plays on that, it's just so good. But yeah, Californication's
Yeah,
a staple. You know, it's a staple.
incredible.
So.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I started with that, and then at the same time, I found out about Radiohead. I had known about OK Computer for a minute, but I didn't really pay attention to it. It was a little too far out for my ears at the time.
Yeah.
My friend had was really into it. My friend Michael Higgins, and I remember he played it a lot. I just remember thinking "Paranoid Android" was such a weird song, but like in a good way. Like I liked it was like weird, but I liked it secretly. And I remember the music video on MTV. So I remember, but then I started getting into Kid A came out, and years that um, had I just become more. It just had grown a little more, you know, not
Mm.
just the sounds I could take in and understand and appreciate. So we're talking about Kid A. We're talking about Television was on radar through my friend introduced me to them. He's like, I think you'd really like this. They have like really guitar playing and um, so Television, Bjork, Radiohead, uh, man, at the drive-in, that was the game changer for me.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I was reading about how some of your biggest influences. I know Omar Rodriguez Lopez. You said was one of them, and I'm a huge Omar Rodriguez Lopez fan. Absolutely, just
Yeah.
from all, even from Volta to At the Drive-In to just his personal like albums and like Old Money is like one of my favorite like records he's done. So it's yeah, definitely, definitely awesome, awesome. Um, so when learning guitar, you learning these songs and a lot of these artists that you're inspired by and kind of creating that musical palette or just your interest in playing guitar was when you were playing guitar. Was there a moment where it was like play like start and stop? Like were there any challenges as you were going through that, or was it more just kind of like a discovery process and just having a great time as you're learning to play guitar? Did you have any struggles or challenges as you were going through all that?
Yeah, I mean, there was just basic concepts that were
Mm.
just I couldn't figure out just
Yeah.
through a magazine or a book. It would take some time. If I did run into another musician at maybe school or somewhere, I'd ask them like, "Hey, how do you do that?
Mm.
How did you make that sound?" Or you know, I remember hearing like a sweet pick. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even talking about like metal, like sweet picking, but just like a subtle like three note sweet pick, like Nels Klein would do, and just being like, "How do you do that?" Like,
Mm.
it's incredible. And I don't know. It just eventually, like, you know, by the time I was in high school, things were becoming a little more easy to learn through the internet. Just finding like tabs and like lessons. A lot of my learning came from guitar magazines and books.
Mm.
Um, and I don't know. I was really good at school. Like I always got like A's. So I think because I had like a capacity to like and attention span to be able to learn, I think that really helped when I was trying to figure out these lessons without a
Mm.
teacher or someone showing me how to do it. So it would take some time, but eventually I would learn stuff. And I remember teaching myself chord scales and that being a huge breakthrough for me because it showed me what chords worked with what scales and how I could solo or play, you know, one scale over a whole chord progression.
Yeah.
And I remember when I taught myself that and learned, that was just like, just busted in the floodgates. Like,
Yeah.
Just I would just learn from books, and I taught my I taught myself theory
Mm.
from books, and I didn't get my first real guitar lesson until I was about 21 years old.
Oh wow.
There's this teacher in Upland, California. His name's Pepper Brown, and he teaches like he's all into like fusion, and I had gotten really into like Mahavishnu Orchestra through Mars Volta and finding out about John McLaughlin and
Yeah.
getting into like Miles Davis Bitches Brew, and I remember wanting to learn more how to play like that. And I found this teacher who was like really into that stuff. And it turns out he was one of Buckethead's teachers when he was like a kid.
Oh wow.
So I took lessons from him for like 3 months, and he filled in the holes. He was like, "You really know a lot, like in terms of theories, like," but he really filled me in on like technical and like technique and how to just simple things like how to hold your pick better and how to place your thumb behind your second finger on your neck.
Mm.
I mean, there's no rules to any of this. You can play however you can play with your thumb or your, whatever.
Mm.
But for me, he had the keys to help me get to like the sound of, so let's say John McLaughlin or something like
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that was really helpful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how did Chicano Batman form? How did you guys first meet each other or get together?
Yeah, so I started having bands when I was in high school,
Mm.
and it was like my second band. In college. It was my band in college. The lead singer was a friend of mine from Rialto. We went to high school together,
Mm.
and she was dating Bardo, the our singer from
Mm.
Chicano Batman. And so that's when I first met Bardo. We were about 21, and she would come late to like band practice and all this stuff. And I used to be like, "Man, where is she at? Like, come on, like we gotta get this. We gotta practice." And she was all in love. And then she would bring this guy up to her like the rehearsals, and it was Bardo. So
Mm.
I remember having like an unfavorable opinion about him because I was like, man, this guy's like making my singer like late, like she's not paying attention. I'm trying to like run a tight ship here.
Right.
No, but eventually their relationship ran its course, and I still kept in touch with him, and he would come see our shows, and he would tell me, I really like your guitar style, and it's inspired my guitar playing and how I play. I like how you play clean. I like how you play like funky. I like how you don't use like distortion, and you just have like your own sound, and it's really inspired how I approach the guitar. And he would tell me that kind of stuff, and I was very flattered. And he ended up having this group called Buyopongo, which is still a band. He started that band like now 15 years ago,
Wow.
and he would invite me to play gigs with his band. Whatever band I was in, he would have me join and be an opening band for the shows he would throw, like in LA or around the LA area.
Mm.
And we just kept in touch. And in about 2008, 2009, Chicano Batman put out their first album.
Mm.
And I remember hearing it on MySpace. You could hear music on MySpace back then. And I remember just liking it a lot, and also just hearing like um, a lot of similarities in the guitar approach and how I played guitar,
Mm.
and thinking I would love to be a part of this because I could see how I could see myself accentuating and also just adding to what they have going, which is like a really amazing group.
Mm.
And I remember I hit up Bardo and I was like, if you ever need another guitar player, you know, please hit me. Please ask me first. If you're interested.
Mm.
And he kept it in mind. And I would go see Chicano Batman play around town. I remember I saw them play at the Echo, and they were just an amazing power trio, like just incredible.
Yeah.
Eduardo and Gabriel's just rhythm section has always been there,
Yeah.
and it just I really think it's a huge part of the band's sound. And I just remember just being impressed at how good they were. Anyways, eventually Bardo hit me up and said, "Hey, I have some new songs, and I want to kind of focus just on playing keyboards and singing more. Maybe you'd be interested in picking up the guitar and playing the guitar parts, and just playing with us."
Mm.
And so yeah, so I started doing that like in 2000. That was 2011,
Hmm.
and that's when I joined the band. And
Nice.
uh, yeah, it was really interesting because I came from a completely different school of music. Like listen to like I said, Radiohead, Mars, prog rock, Can,
Mm.
um, a lot of music that they don't listen to at all.
Hmm.
Bardo at the time was really into like vallenato cumbia music,
Yeah.
Andres Bandero, um, soul music. Eduardo grew up listening to metal, Metallica. Same thing with Gabriel. They were all into metal.
Mm.
So we have all these different influences. What they were all vibing on was the Latin aspect of the sound at the time. So they were drawing references from bands like Los Angeles Negros, Las Pasteles Verdes, which are these Latin American soul groups that just have like funky break beats and keyboards, farfisas, and like guitars with wah wah and just reverb drenched and just like hits on the 2 and 4, just pure like head bobbing music that a hip hop producer would love to sample
Mm.
and have sampled. So that's what they were vibing on, that and Tropicalia music, the music of Caetano Veloso and
Mm.
um, Os Mutanchis. I did not know any of that kind of stuff. I was not interested in that. Like I said, I was into like Radiohead and
Yeah.
Volta and like just crazy stuff like that. Mahavishnu Orchestra, Miles Davis. So it took a while for me to really be able to play the kind of grooves that they were already locked into and that
Mm.
they grew up with. I grew up listening to Prince and Michael Jackson, and that
Yeah.
kind of music was always around the house. Not too much Latin music because my
Hmm.
mom, um, she's third generation Mexican American, so the roots to the immigrant part of the family was like 3 generations back. So they were already like into American popular culture and my mom saw Led Zeppelin at the Forum. She saw
Oh
Jimi
wow.
Hendrix at the Forum. She was on to like that kind of music. She was from that generation. So those are the sounds I heard in my house. And so it took a while for me, like I said, to lock in the grooves and the rhythms and get it right. And now it's a little more effortless. But I
Hmm.
remember at the time just being like, man, I don't know if I can hold it down in this band because they're not playing stuff on the 1 and 3. There's stuff on the 2 and 4 happening. There's like all these crazy little rhythms that I am not like used to like hitting time. And I'm really happy that they were patient with me.
That's great. Yeah, because it's funny. The first time I heard you guys, I was listening to NPR, and there's a transition. Usually, I always try to keep an ear out for the transition music because they'll play stuff that I haven't heard before, and I end up using like a sound hound or whatever, put it to like my car stereo or to my speaker, and the song right off the back, from Freedom is Free came on, and I was like, whoa, that sounds awesome. Just like the rhythm section, and like it had like a funky James Brown, Carlos Santana infusion, and I was just like, oh my god, this is awesome. So that's how I first found out about you guys.
Song. I feel like a lot of our fans don't give that song the time of day it deserves. But
Mm.
I know there's people out there like you that have those that can appreciate those deep cuts. I know we have fans that appreciate it, but I know when we play it live, some people are like, "What song is this?" Like, there's no vocals. Bringing that song to the band, and I think I was listening to Fela. There's like an obvious Fela Kuti influence, and
Mm.
just trying to like we composed it together, and it was just so much fun. And I'm so happy we were able to get that on the record. What you hear on the
Yeah.
album is the first and only take. We just did it, and that was it.
Oh damn! Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that whole album is great, but yeah,
Thank you.
that's that song in particular. Of course, dude, that's really like, I was like, whoa, who are these guys? I need to pay attention to them.
The song is funny, the title, because Eduardo he's English is a second language to him, and for him, Bardo and Gabriel, and we would make fun of ourselves how he would always say like his whole life, like, you know what, fool, right off the back, like I went to the store and I saw, he didn't ever knew it was right off the bat. He always say right. That's why the song's called Right Off the Back.
That's funny. That's funny. Nice, nice. Um, Yeah, just like your guys' sound, it's almost like a time machine of sorts. Like there's so much influence from, you know, all these different genres that you guys mentioned. So just kind of like hearing this gumbo of music from all these various, you know, styles. It's just one of those things where it's like, God, I want quarantine to be over so I can see you guys live. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think so. We put out this new record, and it's a big sea change in the sound of the band. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so much. I think it's just a natural progression of where we're going. You have to understand for the people listening out there, a lot of the sounds on that first record, you hear an organ and a cheap, organ and just guitars with very little effects. That's because that's all we could afford. Like we were going to school, going to college, and trying to be in a band at the same time. And
Mm-hmm.
we were broke. We were broke students, and we've had some moderate success. So now we have better gear, or I like to think better gear, and more options for tone and yeah, the sounds are more expansive on this new record, and I really wanted to show our audience how it ties in
Yeah.
because context is everything. And without the live show, I think for some of our fans, they're not able to the appreciate the direction we were going with this new album as much because there's not that live show to glue it together within the
Mm-hmm.
story of our repertoire. Like how can that song be played, before one of the old songs or after? How does it work in a set? And I feel like if we had that opportunity to play those shows, people would get it more and maybe
Yeah.
appreciate it more. Not everyone, but the small group of people that were just not not so sure about the new sound of the record.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna transition into Invisible People, which I really enjoy the record too. You know, it's a different direction musically, but I know as far as the whole album in general, I mean, conceptually, there seems like there's a different direction that it's being taken. As far as even just talking from like the album cover, it's very reminiscent of like I almost like I was like almost like going crazy because I'm like I feel like this is like adapted from like a painting that I've seen before. Just really like you know really awesome. You know what was the as far as for like the album creation or the album art creation was that all of you guys' like input or how was the album art put together before we talk about the music?
Yeah, so we had started talking about needing some cover art,
Mm,
and I've always wanted something that was like just art,
mm,
where you can see the album cover and it kind of stands on its own for what it is without any regards to the music, or
mm,
it could create this subjective idea of what the music's about.
sure.
And I was just on Pinterest. I was on Pinterest. My wife had just showed me how to use Pinterest. I had been holding out forever, like because it was just another app that I would have to like learn my way through.
Right.
Uh, she introduced me to Pinterest, and man, it was on. I was just finding like amazing artists, and I came across this artist named Rala Choi, who was from South Korea,
Mm,
and I saw his work, and it was just like breathtaking. And I was like, "This is it. This is I would love for us to be represented through this medium, through this filter of an artist."
yeah.
And I was like, this is a painter. It's amazing. And then I did more research and I realized that they're not paintings at all. That it's film photography, and he
Mm,
just sets up the conditions and the aperture, and everything is done like on the spot with everything super controlled environment, and he's able to get these amazing photos. And so
wow.
I hit him up. Uh, I had our managers hit up his manager, and we heard nothing for like a month.
Mm,
And I remember just our manager was just like, "Hey, we're gonna have to just move on with somebody else. Like, we can't get a hold of him." And so I was like, "I'm gonna try." So I hit him up on Instagram, and he wrote me back. I
oh wow.
remember we were in Marfa, Texas. We had just played a show in Marfa, and he wrote me back, and I got really excited. And his English was broken, or maybe I mean, I appreciated that he even wrote me back in English.
Right.
I was like, maybe I can help him if I use like Google Translate. And so I translated my whole like question and my whole conversation to Korean through Google Translate, and I'm
Oh
sure it came
wow.
up broken Korean, you know. But
Mhm.
I sent it to him, and then we just started having like dialogue, and I would just have to like plop it into Google Translate and figure out. And he was like, "I love the sound. I checked out your music. I would love to work with you guys. I'm gonna have my management get in contact with yours." And the ball just got rolling. Before we knew it, we're flying out a photographer from South Korea to shoot the album cover in LA.
Wow.
And he had very specific conditions that he needed, like in terms of the set designs. And we gave him the record, and he loved the record, and he just did his own interpretation of it. We kind of didn't tell him what we wanted, and that
Hmm.
was the point. Was we wanted to we wanted to hand our trust in another artist that we admired and trusted. It's really hard for us as a band to give away like our vision or entrust it with someone else, because there's so many things that get lost in translation or in dialogue,
Yeah.
especially because we're Latinos. People think we want to play up like a certain cultural aspect, and a lot of times their interpretation of that comes through stereotypes that they know from like movies and TVs. So
Hmm.
when we need like content for music videos or artwork, we get cholo art all the time. You know,
Really? Wow.
gangster art. We get like Dia de los Muertos art all the time, and it's like we want to do something that's just apart from that.
Yeah.
We respect that stuff, but we want to do something that creates our own unique identity to who we are as a band.
Right.
And he got that. He was the first person we entrusted, and he just came back. He's like, I interpreted the album, I interpreted the message behind Invisible People, and this is what I came up with. And so he showed us the concept, and we loved it.
Wow. That's really awesome. That's a great story. I mean, I feel like it almost is it's kind of like a prologue to kind of like the message that you're trying to convey, the fact that it can be that it can be connected with someone who's in South Korea, you know, and even just the conversation of you breaking it, like breaking the language barrier down, you know, to get this vision across and that connection. I think that's just such a powerful thing. So,
Yeah, it was amazing to meet him in person and to work with his crew, and just he's so talented. He's so nice. It's funny. We shot the video at not the video. We shot the artwork at a soundstage in South LA, where they do all these hip hop videos, and I can't remember what hip hop artist was there. Um, I can't remember which one, but they were having like some big time hip hop musician was shooting a music video. So our manager had just showed up. He's like, man, he's like, I went into the wrong sound stage, and like there was all these like half naked women around, and I was like, this is the Chicano Batman? Oh, it's Tyga. That's what it was.
oh, okay, yeah,
Um, so
that's
yeah,
funny.
it was funny.
Tell me about some of your favorite songs on the album, or just the ones that resonated with you. If not, you know, all of them, but what are some that stick out to you?
So let me see. I like Manuel's story a
Mm.
lot. I'm a little biased to that one. That's one I brought in,
Mm.
and that was definitely me just being inspired by Can and prog rock music
Mm.
and the Motoric beat, which is like the beat Stereolab uses a lot, and Can. It's just this groove that I've always wanted to explore within the context of this band. But I just had kind of this idea that maybe the band this wouldn't be the project to try this out in,
Mm.
because I just thought, I don't think these guys would be into that. But one day there was like a session, and it was just me, Eduardo, and Gabriel. Bardo was out of town on vacation, and we got together, and it was like we weren't thinking of, all right, let's write Chicano Batman music. It was more like, hey, let's just try some stuff. And I was like, all right, let's try this. I have this weird song. We tried it, and it came together. It started coming together, and it was fun. And then we showed it
Mm.
to Bardo, and he loved it and added his vocals, and he added like a synthesizer that plays with his vocals on the chorus.
Mm.
And yeah, it was just like it was just proof that we really could do anything if we wanted to. If we were all on the same page, it didn't matter about style or genre. It was just about trying to do something different. And so that song's
Nice.
fun to me. I like it a lot. I like the feel, and it just has sounds that I feel like we hadn't tried before on previous albums. So I like that song. I like Invisible People. That one was great. We kind of went in with the song being more like of a head bobbing beat. And when we got to the studio, Leon Michaels, the producer, who's under L. Michaels Affairs, his project, he was like, "We got to reconstruct this from scratch." And I just remember like feeling like the armpit sweat go down the side of my like torso and be like, "Oh God, this is gonna be stressful." Like we're on the spot. We gotta compose something like in an hour right now. But we were up for the challenge, and it was fun. We just ended up coming up with just great parts that I thought were better than what the original song was, and it was just fun knowing that we could write on the spot like that under the clock and with that pressure, and so that was fun. I'm trying to think what else we got on there.
Tell me about Pink Elephant. I really enjoyed that song when I
So
was
Pink
listening.
Elephant, and as the guitar player in the band, Chicano Batman is more like, I'm trying to think of what, I guess there's, okay, so Flaming Lips is an awesome band,
Yeah.
and just because someone's playing the music like on stage or on the record doesn't mean that person like came necessarily developed that part.
Right.
And so Chicano Batman's becoming more like that, where like there's keyboards that I played on the record or keyboards I wrote that Bardo plays the keyboards on the record. There's guitar parts that he wrote or Eduardo wrote that I play on the record. And it's becoming to the point where it's not about being like an individual musician and trying to be like the hot shit guitarist or keyboardist or whatever. It's more about let's make the sound of this band, and it doesn't matter who did what. That's the sound. So that's the case for Pink Elephant. Eduardo came out with the guitar part, and it was just amazing. There was nothing for me to do to it except I think I added the bridge guitar parts, but it was fine as it was, and I had no qualms, just playing it the way it was because that's the way it needed to be. And the reason we do that is because we track live as a band. So yeah, like Eduardo, if we tracked one person at a time, he could have just did the guitar part by himself. But we want to get that live take. So that means since I play guitar live, I'm going to play the guitar while we're recording that song. So I recorded the guitar. He did the bass. We got the drums. Boom. We did it like in a couple takes. And but that's a song Eduardo demoed with Gabriel. Him and Gabriel demoed it. And yeah, it's just like kind of supposed to be like some kind of like hip hop sample kind of vibe, like maybe something you'd hear like on an MF Doom sample, and I loved it, and Bardo loved it, and started writing lyrics to it like as soon as he heard it. So that's how that one came together pretty easily.
Very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. Another song too that stuck out to me was "The Way." I really dig the different time signature changes too. Can you tell me about that one?
Yeah, so that's a song Bardo brought in, and it was like familiar territory a little bit. Like it had like those Tropicalia kind of arrangements, and just kind of, to me, those sounds of like Brazilian kind of music that we listened to from like the 70s and 60s. And it was originally composed. He fully composed it, I think, the vocals and the guitar. And then Eduardo and Gabriel added their parts. And this song was funny. It was a big fight for the band, actually. So,
Really?
we're a band. So I just want to tell everybody, we're a band. You have four very unique individuals that are essentially composers with them by themselves, trying to compose together and see a unique, united vision. That can be a tough place to get to at times.
Right.
So I guess I've read like the Beatles kind of functioned like this. Like whoever brought in the song, they were kind of the boss of that song. So John brought in a song, he's the boss. Paul, boss. George Harrison, etc. Ringo. So that was the case. And so with this one, Bardo was actually, I don't think it needs any of your guitar playing on it. And I was like, really? I think I could. I think I can like add something to this without taking away from it. And it was kind of contentious. He was like, I don't think it needs any Carlos on it. And so we get to the studio, and Leon was like, I think Bardo went to go get like lunch or something. He's like, get in there, let's add some guitar parts to this. And So those are the I play in all the fuzz guitar you hear on the song, and like the electric guitar. Bardo's playing the acoustic, and the middle section, Bardo kind of knew he wanted some kind of like backward sounding, melodic, like trippy, psychedelic vibe happening.
Yeah.
And on the middle section, that's actually Leon, our producer, like getting down on the Moog, and he's just playing these amazing like melodies that really add to like the the idea we were going with for the song.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Interesting story. Yeah, it's funny. It reminds me of Red Hot Chili Peppers from By the Way, because I know they fought a lot making that record, you know, and you kind of
Yeah.
hear these just like these conflicting types of rhythms, but like it works and it sounds great, you know. So
This was
uh,
a this was a tough record for us. This was I found like solace in like reading stories about how like every time Radiohead makes a record, they can't stand each other, you know.
mm,
And that's definitely not the case with us. We usually get along, but this record was hard to make because I think we really kind of understood that this was an important record in our catalog and where we were going and where we had been. It was kind of like a little more pressure, and I think we didn't want to disappoint, so we really wanted to bring our A game, and everybody kind of had singular visions for what they wanted, but we had to have like a united vision at the end of the day, and
right.
that's what you hear. But to get to that place, it's it's contentious when somebody wants to eat Chinese food for dinner and you want to eat Subway like by somewhere, and that's what it's like making that record. It was like, hey, I want to go this way, and that person's like, I want to go this way. All right, well, where can we meet? Can we meet?
Right.
And that's where the
Right.
producer comes in handy. It's like, all right, this is where we're going.
Yeah, yeah. You end up getting a buffet of sorts.
Exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, one of the last things I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the future for Chicano Batman? Are you guys working on more stuff right now, or is it kind of hiatus because of the obvious state of affairs going on, or what's in the future for you guys?
It's a little bit hiatus right now. I mean, we did like a lot of press for this record, and because we were in quarantine, we were very accessible. So it was just like a nonstop like promo and interviews and radio interviews and writing things for content that was going to be put out in magazines or
Mm,
online. And so I think we got a little burned out on that because it was going strong till like August. Then the
mm,
album came like in March. So we've been kind of enjoying this little bit of a respite, and but we do have some music that we recorded that we're gonna put out at some point. Nothing more than an EP at most, but there's already talks about hopefully getting some studio time next year to just start working on the next record.
nice, nice. Well, definitely looking forward to that. Carlos, I really appreciate you taking the time, man. It's been I love these stories you've been sharing, and just kind of your story as a guitarist and musician. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jerrell. Appreciate it.
Of course, of course. Well, there you have it, folks. This is Drill Power from the 440 Guitar Podcast. We'll jam again soon, and have a good day.